Today, we're talking about a truth that many people understand but rarely speak about. A woman doesn't get bored of sex. She gets bored of the connection that makes sex meaningful. Many men think their wife's interest is fading, when in reality, she is exhausted from the lack of emotion, attention, and understanding. If you listen to this speech carefully, you will not only understand your wife better, but you can bring the intimacy in your relationship back to life. A woman's desire is deeply connected to the emotional bond she feels with her partner, and this connection shapes almost every part of her intimate response. When a woman feels emotionally safe, valued, and understood, her body naturally relaxes, her mind becomes open, and intimacy begins to feel meaningful instead of mechanical. Emotional connection is not a luxury for her, it's the foundation on which her desire is built. Many men assume that physical attraction alone should be enough, but for most women, attraction grows through emotional closeness, not the other way around. When her partner listens, pays attention, speaks kindly, and values her presence, she begins to feel wanted as a person, not just needed as a wife. This emotional security creates the hormonal and psychological environment where desire can thrive naturally. But when emotional connection fades, everything else starts to feel heavy. Even simple interactions can begin to feel transactional, and intimacy slowly shifts from something she looks forward to into something that feels like another responsibility. Women often don't lose desire. Suddenly, it fades gradually as they stop feeling emotionally seen or appreciated. Every ignored feeling, every rushed conversation, and every day without meaningful connection becomes another small step away from desire. The body cannot respond when the heart feels distant, stressed, or unheard. Emotional disconnection creates a silent tension inside her, one that numbs her natural desire and makes intimacy feel disconnected from love. Emotional connection also shapes how a woman interprets her partner's actions. If she feels loved and valued, even small gestures feel intimate, like a hand on her back, a soft compliment, or a warm hug. But if she feels emotionally unsupported, the same gestures can feel empty or pressured. Her desire is not just about what happens in the bedroom, it's about how she feels throughout the day. A woman carries emotional energy inside her, and if that energy is nurtured with kindness, affection, and respect, desire grows on its own. When a man understands this and invests in real emotional connection, intimacy stops feeling like effort and starts feeling like connection again. Emotional closeness brings back excitement, comfort, trust, and a sense of being wanted, not just physically, but fully. This is why emotional connection is the first and most important key to a woman's desire. Psychological stress is one of the most powerful factors that silently destroys a woman's desire, yet it is the least understood by men. When a woman feels mentally overloaded, her body naturally shifts into a survival mode, not a desire mode. The human brain does not allow emotional overwhelm and sexual desire to coexist. When stress levels rise, desire shuts down automatically. This is why so many women say they feel tired, not in the mood, or disconnected, even when they love their partner deeply. Their mind is simply too crowded, too heavy, and too preoccupied to feel any form of intimacy. Women often carry invisible burdens. Responsibilities, household pressure, children, work expectations, emotional management, and even unresolved personal thoughts. Unlike men who can compartmentalize, women process everything at once. Their brain stays active, analyzing, planning, worrying, and multitasking constantly. Even if her partner feels everything is fine, her mind may be running through a list of 100 unfinished tasks. In that state, intimacy feels like one. More responsibility, not a comforting connection. Many men misunderstand this shutdown, assuming their partner is avoiding them or has lost interest. In reality, she is mentally drained, not emotionally detached. She might still crave closeness, affection, and connection, but she doesn't have the mental space to initiate or respond to intimacy. Emotional exhaustion blunts desire because intimacy requires vulnerability, softness, and presence. Stress wipes out all three. Unequal emotional labor is another hidden cause. Women often become the emotional managers of the home, remembering everything, organizing everything, and worrying about everyone. When she feels alone in handling life's weight, her emotional energy collapses. And when emotional energy is gone, sexual energy disappears with it. Desire cannot survive in a mind that feels overburdened. A supportive partner can change everything. When a woman feels emotionally supported, understood, and less alone in daily pressures, her nervous system relaxes. When she feels safe enough to breathe, her body begins to reopen. Small gestures, listening without judging, helping with responsibilities, showing appreciation, reducing her mental load, all signal her brain to shift from stress mode to connection mode. And once stress decreases, desire starts to return naturally. What men often perceive as lack of interest is simply a woman's mind asking for relief, not rejection. For many women, intimacy doesn't begin with physical touch. It begins with how she feels throughout the day. Emotional foreplay is the foundation of her desire, and it often holds more weight than anything that happens in the bedroom. When a woman feels emotionally connected, respected, valued, and understood, her mind naturally opens to closeness. But when these emotional needs remain unmet, physical intimacy feels disconnected, forced, or even like another responsibility. This is why understanding emotional foreplay is essential, because for her, desire grows long before any physical moment even begins. Emotional foreplay starts with the small interactions that happen outside the bedroom: a kind tone, a genuine compliment, an unexpected act of kindness, a supportive conversation, a moment where she feels seen instead of invisible. These experiences quietly build emotional warmth. When she feels appreciated, her nervous system relaxes. When she feels emotionally safe, her guard comes down. When she feels understood, she becomes open. This soft emotional space is what prepares her for intimacy, not pressure, not expectation, and certainly not routine physical gestures. Her desire is tied to how deeply she feels connected to the person she's with. Another important part of emotional foreplay is mindful communication. A small check-in, a thoughtful question, or listening without interrupting can shift her entire emotional state. Women often carry mental load planning, organizing, worrying, caring, while also managing their emotional world. When a partner steps in with support, reassurance, or simply presence, it reduces her mental weight. And once her mind feels lighter, she can actually feel desire again. Emotional openness creates physical openness. The two are deeply connected. Women also respond strongly to consistency. One kind gesture is nice, but consistent kindness builds trust. Consistent emotional attention builds comfort. Consistent respect builds desire. When she feels that emotional warmth every day, intimacy becomes something she looks forward to rather than something that drains her. Emotional foreplay is not about dramatic gestures. It's about steady, genuine, everyday connection that tells her, "You matter, I see you, I appreciate you." Ultimately, emotional foreplay is the invisible glue that holds intimacy together. When she feels loved outside the bedroom, she feels closer inside it. When she feels emotionally fulfilled, physical intimacy becomes natural rather than forced. Emotional foreplay is not. Extra it is essential, and understanding it can transform a relationship more deeply than anything physical ever could. When intimacy becomes predictable, routine, and emotionally disconnected, it slowly loses its spark, especially for women. This boredom isn't about sex itself. It's about the lack of freshness, emotional energy, and meaningful connection behind it. When the same actions, same timing, same approach, and same expectations repeat for months or years, intimacy stops feeling special and turns into a mechanical habit. Women naturally crave emotional stimulation, variation, and subtle shifts in the way their partner shows affection. When a relationship falls into autopilot, The emotional charge that fuels desire begins to fade. She may start feeling like intimacy is no longer a moment of closeness, but something expected from her, something she must give rather than something she wants to experience. A woman becomes bored not because the relationship lacks love, but because it lacks emotional movement. She wants to feel desired, not just needed. She wants to feel chosen, not just available. When a partner stops paying attention to small changes, stops initiating meaningful conversations, or stops showing curiosity about her feelings, a woman unconsciously begins disconnecting. This emotional distance makes intimacy feel like a repetition of yesterday rather than a discovery of something new. Even the smallest predictable patterns, like approaching intimacy at the same time every night, using the same words, or following the same steps, create a sense of monotony. Over time, this monotony makes the experience lose depth, and a woman begins to feel emotionally invisible. The emotional boredom deepens when affection becomes transactional. If she feels that intimacy only happens when her partner wants physical closeness rather than when the relationship feels emotionally warm, she begins associating sex with obligation instead of desire. Women connect desire to, meaning they need the experience to reflect partnership, not just physical action. When this meaning disappears, excitement fades, even if the relationship itself seems stable. But this boredom can be reversed. Women respond quickly to emotional renewal. Small shifts like unexpected affection, meaningful praise, genuine curiosity, thoughtful gestures, or conversations that show emotional presence can reignite interest. Change in energy, not dramatic change in behavior, is what matters. When a man breaks the familiar pattern and shows effort, softness, and emotional openness, the relationship becomes alive again. The moment she feels that intimacy is about connection and not routine, her excitement naturally returns. Ultimately, women don't crave constant novelty. They crave emotional freshness, the feeling that their partner still sees them, notices them, and chooses them with heart, not habit. When a woman becomes bored or disconnected from intimacy, it often has far less to do with physical attraction and far more to do with the emotional space she lives in. One of the deepest reasons a woman loses interest is that she slowly stops hearing her own emotional voice inside the relationship. When her needs, desires, boundaries, or feelings are minimized, ignored, or brushed aside, she begins to feel invisible. This invisibility is not dramatic or sudden. It builds quietly, day by day. She may continue fulfilling responsibilities, taking care of the home, supporting her partner, and managing her life, but internally she begins to feel like her emotional presence no longer carries meaning. This silent emotional disappearance directly impacts her physical desire. When a woman feels unheard, intimacy becomes an obligation rather than an expression of connection. She may start believing that her feelings don't matter, her comfort isn't important, or that her emotional world is secondary to everyone else's needs. Over time, this internal belief kills the spark that once made her feel connected and expressive in the relationship. Intimacy for a woman isn't just physical touch. It is a reflection of how deeply she feels understood and valued. If her emotional voice goes unheard, physical closeness begins to feel unbalanced or even draining. She may withdraw not because she doesn't care, but because she cannot participate in something that doesn't feel emotionally safe. Women often silence themselves to avoid conflict or because they believe their partner won't understand, and every time they suppress a feeling, a small piece of their desire fades. They stop sharing what hurts them, what excites them, what they need, and what they fear. Without this expression, intimacy becomes mechanical, predictable, and emotionally empty. The excitement, passion, and natural desire they once felt gets replaced by emotional fatigue. The good news is that this voice can return the moment the relationship becomes a space where she feels seen again. When a partner listens without judgment, responds with empathy, and makes her emotional needs a priority, she slowly begins to feel safe enough to reconnect. As soon as she feels her voice has weight, her desire slowly rekindles. A woman's sexual interest is deeply tied to how valued she feels as a person. When she regains her voice, she regains her desire because her intimacy comes from feeling emotionally alive, not just physically present. And here's the truth you cannot ignore. A woman doesn't lose her desire because she stops loving you. She loses it because she stops feeling loved in the way her heart understands. Intimacy doesn't fade because the relationship is broken. It fades because the connection that feeds it has been starving for too long. If you truly want to bring back the passion, the excitement, the spark that once made your relationship feel alive, then start with the one thing that matters most. Make her feel seen again. Make her feel heard again. Make her feel emotionally held again. Because when a woman feels valued, she doesn't just return, she rises. She loves louder. She trusts deeper. She connects with a fire that transforms the entire relationship. Every touch becomes meaningful, every moment becomes intimate, and every part of the relationship feels alive again. Desire isn't lost. It's waiting for connection, waiting for presence, waiting for understanding. So if you truly want to change your relationship, don't chase her body. Reach for her heart. When you win her heart, her desire will follow on its own. And when that happens, you won't just get intimacy back. You'll get the woman you fell in love with and the relationship you always dreamed of.